What's the name of that really fancy store that the kids love to go and spend money on? Like they'd set up camp if they could so they can buy their makeup.
Ours likes Mecca.
Mecca. Is that the one with the big black? Yeah. Today, what do you do when your child wants to spend all of their money and all of your money on makeup and they're only 7 or 11 or whatever it is? They're too young, you think, for them to be wearing makeup. G'day and welcome to the Happy Families podcast, real parenting solutions every day on Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson, and every Tuesday on the pod, we answer your tricky questions, whether it's family or relationships or screens or the kids wearing makeup. All you need to do to submit a question is send us a voice message. Use the voice note app on your phone. Send it through to info@happyfamilies.com.au, just like this anonymous listener did.
What age is it appropriate to wear makeup? My daughter's 11, 12 in September, and she loves wearing eye makeup only. She's homeschooled, so she's only wearing it to church on Sunday. I don't wear any of it, and I really think she is too young for that. What would be the best way to talk to her? Thank you.
Okay, Kylie, we have 6 daughters. I feel like we're qualified to talk about this one outside of any, I don't know, parenting books and PhDs in psychology and whatever else. Where do you want to start? I kind of want to handball this straight to you as the female, the matriarch of our family and the one who has dealt with this probably more than me.
Well, I'm going to counter her tricky question with one of my own.
Oh, right. Okay.
Why do you think that makeup is one of those trigger point topics for so many parents? I want to say mums, but I can tell you I have had so many conversations with dads who are actually more, I'm going to use the word militant, about their girls wearing makeup than even their partners are.
Yeah, so there's a bit of research around this, and it indicates that most parents that worry about makeup, usually they do come from more conservative backgrounds, so church, that doesn't surprise me to hear that. Nevertheless, it's not isolated to just that conservative background. But research would indicate that parents worry about it because of a couple of things. Number one, and certainly this has been the issue for me when our daughters have started to experiment with makeup, is you just don't want them to grow up too soon. And especially there's a sense that beauty standards and self-worth are interconnected. So if I feel like I'm not enough as I am, I'm only enough when I'm wearing this mask that I put on. As a dad, I want my kids to know that they're beautiful without it. They don't need it. They're wonderful. And the research certainly suggests that I'm not Robinson Crusoe there. I'm not living on an island on my own. Other really big ones, though, that data point to revolve around childhood innocence. So a lot of parents view makeup as part of adult or at least teenage self-presentation, and they worry that kids are just growing up too fast. It could be premature sexualization or premature adult behaviors. And I think all of that sort of leans into this idea that some parents just see makeup as a gateway to having this broader, I'm appearance focused, I'm socially pressured, I need to look a certain way, my value is tied to how I look. My read on the research around this is a wonderful book by Renee Engel, and it's called Beauty Sick. It's still probably my top 10 books of all time. It's brilliantly written, incredibly written, and she unpacks a whole lot more of that, which we could go into, but I don't think that will answer this question quite so well. I know you weren't asking for a long answer. I'm sorry I went on as long as I did. You're looking at me like, now I've got no time left to talk.
In Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he tells this story about a man who marries into a family, and one day his wife is making a lamb roast, and he walks in while she's doing it, and he notices that she cuts both ends off the lamb roast, and he thinks, that's really weird.
What a waste of meat.
Why do you do that? And she said, well, that's the way my mum always did it. And he thought, this is a bit weird. So he decided to give her a call, and he said to her mum, why do you cut the ends off your lamb roast? And she said, well, that's the way my mum always did it. And so he called the grandma and said, I was watching my wife make the lamb roast the other night and she cuts the ends of the lamb roast. And her mum said it was because that's how you taught her to do it. Why did you do it? And she said, well, back when they were younger, she said, we had a really small oven and it wouldn't fit in the oven if I didn't cut the ends off. So her decision to cut the ends off the lamb roast was practical for the time, but not necessarily needful moving forward. It was just something that had been passed down from generation to generation without ever questioning why. And so you've shared a couple of things here that are really important. You know, the idea that we want to keep our children innocent for as long as possible, and that we want them to not grow up so fast.
Yeah, and not be focused on physical appearance. For me, that's the big one. Don't just trust that you're beautiful. Putting that on is not going to make you more valuable at all. And if you think that it will, then you're going to be chasing it forever and never satisfied.
But I wonder whether this huge emphasis that we have on the fact that our kids shouldn't be wearing it is something that's just been passed down from generation to generation, and we're not willing to actually sit in that hard place and actually think about it from their perspective in the world we live in now and how it impacts them.
Well, it's certainly, the more you push back, the more controlling you are around it, the more it feels like forbidden fruit. It makes the kids want it more. Force creates resistance. So after the break, we're going to talk about how you can get to the bottom of this, talk with your kids effectively and safely about it, and help them to navigate this desire, this challenge in a healthy way. We're back. It's the Happy Families podcast, and today it's the perennial problem of kids wanting to wear makeup before their parents feel like they're ready for it. So, Kylie, today I've handed this over to you today. What are our action steps if we're parents who want our kids to have a healthy approach to self-image, but they really want to explore makeup?
So this is actually very interesting because out of 6 children, we have only had one who has been just
gung-ho,
very intense about her desire to wear makeup from an earlier age than I was comfortable with.
So our first 4, not really that interested. They've all had moments, right? But normally as they've been a bit older and they've started to experiment with makeup a bit, but...
Well, the general rule in our home has been 14. I would let them wear makeup from the time that they were 14. And so I actually pre-armed them. At the time they turned 14, I brought them a little makeup bag and they got them some mascara and a little bit of foundation and some blush and a clearer kind of, soft coloured lip gloss.
You said, I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about.
And that kind of appeased most of them. And to be honest, because I am not a makeup wearer, our kids it hasn't been a big deal. They've worn it on special occasions and we've actually got away with it pretty easy.
Until that one.
Until number 5 came along.
Loves it.
And from the time she was about 11.
I was going to say from the time she was about 2. That's what it feels like.
She was obsessed, absolutely obsessed with it.
So what are our action steps? If we've got a parent who's really worried and doesn't want their kids to grow up too fast and has an 11-year-old who's saying, but I want to wear it all, what do you reckon? Because you've had more of these conversations with the kids than I have.
It's probably going to sound like we're on repeat, but it really is the 3 E's.
It sounds like you've been talking to a parenting expert. Explore, explain, empower. That's what you wrote down on your sheet.
That is what I wrote down.
Okay.
So the first one is explore. This is such an awesome conversation. We get to get curious instead of furious with them because they've got this desire. We get to explore what it is that's motivating this desire and need.
I think it's really interesting that you said that we want to get curious, not furious. This is one of those things where parents do get upset.
Yeah.
And when you think about what I was saying earlier, it kind of makes sense, right? Your child wants to do something, you're uncomfortable with it because you feel like they're losing their innocence, they're growing up too fast, they're putting the focus on their external appearance rather than their internal character. And there's all of these moralistic and values-laden judgments that you're putting on your child because they want to wear makeup. And therefore, as a parent, you go, you don't believe in yourself and you're completely externally focused and blow up. I mean, you don't actually say those words, but underneath the emotion, no, you're not wearing makeup, you're too young, underneath that is all this fear. My child's getting older, my child's focused in the wrong places and so on. My child's becoming increasingly sexualized. That drives, I was going to say furiosity instead of curiosity, but I feel like I've just become Mad Max Furiosa. That drives the reprimand rather than the understand. Oh gosh, there I go again. So when we talk, for those who are not familiar with the 3 E's of effective discipline, it means that we explore their world, like you said, Kylie. We explain where we're coming from, and then we empower them to come up with a solution or a structure or a framework or a system that we can all feel good about. We work on solutions together.
What's interesting to me is we've got this idea that makeup is all of these negative things in our children's lives, and yet I would say that every single one of us encourages our children on a day-to-day basis to put their best foot forward and to dress smartly and, represent themselves well, and yet
do your hair, tuck yourself in, all that sort of
100%.
stuff. Yeah.
And then there is an absolute counter to that as soon as they say, well, I just want to add a bit of colour to my cheeks or put some lipstick on.
Do you know what I'm thinking as I'm listening to you say this? I mean, we haven't, you've prepped this and I had no idea where you were going to go with it. I wonder what a 24-year-old Kylie would say if she could hear mid-40s Mrs. Happy Families saying this about her daughters wearing makeup from the age of 11. My sense is that as we have raised 6 daughters, we've learnt not to sweat the small stuff, and our sense is that making a big deal about makeup is perhaps a bit unnecessary. It's not nearly as much big stuff as it might seem to be.
I remember one day one of our younger kids coming home from school and they had a sex question, and it was about 2 kids at school. And she asked me about this thing. She was a bit worked up about it. I said, well, tell me, what does that mean to you? And she told me what it meant, which was absolutely and entirely different.
There's so many funny memes where that sort of thing happens.
So different from the actual meaning.
The parents start going into this big story and then the kid did not mean that at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that's why this explore conversation is so important, because what you think is the motivation behind them wearing makeup is probably not their motivation.
And if it is, you get to have the conversation with them and explore more. Explore, explain, empower. If I was answering the question, and I literally put this one on you today, I would go in the same direction precisely. And I would also say we used to care about this a great deal. And while I still think that it is a relevant and important question, I still think that it matters. And I do think we need to take it seriously because it can be associated with a bunch of things that lead to kids growing up too soon. My sense is that if we take a really mature, really easy approach to it, our children will respond really well to it. There won't be any of that resistance around it, and they'll end up having a healthy relationship around self-image and self-presentation and so on. So to our anonymous voice mailer, thank you so much for the question. We love answering your questions and we hope that helps. If you'd like to submit a tricky question, you've got 2 options. Either use the super simple system at happyfamilies.com.au, just scroll down to podcasts, click the record button and start talking, or alternatively, send us a voice note to info@happyfamilies.com.au. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. You'll find more resources and a bunch more information about making your family happier, including the Miss Connection Summit, all about raising healthy, happy, resilient teen girls, at happyfamilies.com.au.